Welcome to Two Guys on My Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Thompson, and my illustrious co-host.
It's Michael Vincent.
We are here and we talk about things that matter to us, and hopefully they matter to you. You have a choice of being anywhere, and you're choosing to be with us, and we thank you and are humbled. We have a special guest tonight, Pete Bardunas. We're going to talk about the Canal Fest coming up here in Waterford, and all things that come around with the Canal Fest, the history, the economic impact of it, and everything else. If you like what we have to say, please subscribe and like. And without further ado, hello, Michael.
Hey, Jason.
What's going on, mister?
Same old, same old. Here on a great evening. Thank God the summer is actually on its way.
Yes, thank you.
Cold weather is behind us. I probably just jinxed us by saying that, but
You probably did.
you know,
And hello, Pete.
How are you, sir?
How are
Sirs?
you?
Good
Long
to see you
time
both.
no see. How you been?
I
man?
know. We were saying off air how busy it has been. The chamber these days, I work for the Capital Region Chamber, as you know, and boy, oh boy, it seems like every time we turn around, we got something going on. That's good because it means a lot of business. You know,
Sure.
we do a lot of ceremonies, ribbon cuttings, et cetera. That's a good part of it. But there's also a lot of other things going on. People need help, and
Yeah.
We're there to
Tough
do what we
economic
can.
times.
It can be really challenging.
Yep. As a matter of fact, speaking of that, how is your planning of the Canal Fest coming along?
Going very well. As you know, the Waterford Canal Festival is the first big event of the year when the canal system opens, which usually it's the canal opens on that Friday, and then the festival is Saturday and Sunday. So it's literally the beginning of the season. And it's pretty cool because the boats, a lot of them that are going to travel through the canal, many of them are still here in Waterford for that weekend. So
Yep.
that's a lot of fun. Planning's going well. We got a great committee. We're looking ahead too because the things we're doing this year is kind of a dress rehearsal for next year, which is the 200th anniversary of the Erie
anniversary,
Canal. Yeah.
So the Erie Canal had begun its construction in 1817 and opened in an entirety in 1825.
That is correct.
Championed by DeWitt Clinton. The canal is also known as the Mother of Cities. I don't know if you knew that.
The mother of cities. Well,
Yes.
it makes sense because think of all the
Rochester,
municipalities, right?
Syracuse,
They
Amsterdam.
formed because of the canal.
Correct.
In fact, the canal was, if you want to think about it this way, the first New York State Thruway.
As a matter of fact, prior to the canal, you'll find this interesting, it used to take 2 weeks to get from Albany to Buffalo via stagecoach. And once the canal was opened, using a much more comfortable boat would narrow it down to 5 days.
True, and also it depended on whether you got scalped. Once you got several hours, well, it would have been days in those days, west of Albany, it was potential for
Indian.
yeah, there might be a conflict. So it was actually scary and dangerous as well as long.
Very good. I'm glad those days are over.
Now you only get scalped, when you're at the toll booths.
Yeah, right. Actually, I don't even know anymore because there's no toll booths.
That's right.
What, from a chamber's point of view, what is the economic impact of the canal?
Well, they've done some studies that have shown the actual economic impact from the statewide, not even just the tourism side, but just in general. They've put it in the billions of dollars, which is pretty amazing.
That much still today, huh?
Yes, because if you think about it, there's a lot of, it doesn't matter how you get somewhere, but the canal towns that are on the canal, many of them are there only because the canal exists, right? So if you're going to a place like Fairport, New York, you may be getting there by throughway, but you're there because of the canal. That's why Fairport is there. That's why it exists. It's what all their festivals and events are about. In some cases, the water supply, agriculturally and stuff like that, or flood control and things like that are all managed by the New York Power Authority and the canal system. So when you really start adding it up, you start to realize, wow, there's a lot more benefit to this waterway than people realized.
True, I never thought of it that way. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Look at Lockport. Lockport, the reason why people go to Lockport is strictly because there's, 10 flights of locks in a less than a 1 mile span or something
Well,
like
that's
that?
it. Lockport has, as similar to Waterford here, where you kind of go up the little staircase of locks.
Yeah.
But
But they're in a short distance.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. The other thing we wanted to talk about is I remember when I was a kid, I say a kid, I'm going back probably 20 years. When was the first Canal Fest, actually?
I
remember
believe
that?
it was the late 80s.
Because I remember the school, Waterford Schools, used to make these big banners that used to
Right.
hang on the
Yes.
side of the locks.
Yes,
In
that's
the last
right.
several years, I haven't seen those. They used to have the graduating class make a huge banner
Yeah.
for the Canal Fest and whatever sign of the time. 'Cause I remember the 9/11 one had the Twin Towers on it. and
Yeah,
whatnot,
a lot of things, of course, changed over the years. It used to be part of something called River Spark, and it was a regional consortium. It was a great idea for its time. The problem is unfortunately, in recent years, a lot of the makeup of the not-for-profit organizations that are behind a lot of these great events and festivals that everybody goes to, it's changed. It's hard to find volunteers. It's certainly hard to find staff. So the Village of Waterford was running it, and in 2018, when when the Chamber of Southern Saratoga County was still independent at that time, I agreed to take it over as a way of kind of preserving it and figuring out a new way forward.
that was actually a question I was going to ask how you got involved.
Yes, I love the water anyway. Waterford was literally the first place I ever set foot on Saratoga County soil because my family were from downstate near New York City and we're very avid boaters. So my
Yep.
dad back in the 70s bought a boat and we headed up to Lake Champlain and, well, you get off in Waterford.
Convergence of the Ford. Yeah, sure.
Yes, which incidentally, I mentioned Champlain. The Champlain Canal was 2 years prior to the Erie Canal. So it was actually 1823. They celebrated their bicentennial last year.
Okay, that makes sense because I remember the celebration taking place. And
That's correct.
I could understand what obviously a year apart. 2 years
They were a
apart.
little
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah. Now, is it still built? Was the Champlain Canal still a state funded canal, or was that a
It's all
federally?
part of the same type of program, dating back, of course. This whole thing actually started due to a vision by none other than George Washington. He wanted to, similar to what you saw in the 20th century when they talked about Autobahns in Germany with the wars and things.
Eisenhower road system.
Yeah, the same thing back then about canals, because he felt that if we were going to get out to the west and we were going to be able to move the stuff back and forth, he believed that we would need canal systems. He believed that that was going to happen in Maryland, the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, which didn't work out too good.
Oh.
There's even canals, if you go out to Indianapolis, if you walk through the center of their community there, it's made up like it's a canal town. There actually is a canal there that never opened.
Really?
There's gondolas on it now, and it looks like, wow, the Indianapolis is a canal town. Well, it's not really, but they set it up that way. It's
Kind of a
pretty cool.
dead end there.
Yeah, it was just something that they were working on. But what made our canal different was that DeWitt Clinton had a vision. They all thought he was crazy, and he probably was.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of controversy,
Yeah.
quite a bit of controversy with that.
Right, and they formed the Erie Canal. They got it built, and you know what? Just like today's public works projects, they built this wonderful canal and got it open in 1825, and within 10 years realized it's too darn small.
Had to expand it.
They had to expand it in the 1840s and then again in the 1880s. And then finally in 1918, the modern barge canal was open. I heard an interesting story. Now, for those that are familiar with where I live in the town of Clifton Park, at exit 9 on the I-87, the Northway, people complain about the traffic all the time. They're like, oh, all this development, it's destroying the town, blah, blah, blah. Well, back in the 1830s, when the canal was becoming a bottleneck, there was a little community called Vischer Ferry, and that's where the mule-drawn barges would go. Unfortunately, because it was getting busy, it became a bottleneck, and there were a lot of fistfights, and the people were complaining about, of course, the traffic in Clifton Park. So it's not just a modern phenomenon. Back in the 1830s,
It's not just with cars, obviously.
right? Yeah, they were complaining about it then. They're complaining about it now.
Which actually, it's pretty neat because if you go down to the water's edge, you'll have obviously the canal that we know of today with the big doors, but right next to it, which they now use as a spillway, was that not the original flight?
That was, well, sort of. The original flight is actually, originally the canal took a different path. It started down in Albany and worked its way up across where the Crescent Bridge is.
Right,
But
through
what they
Cohoes,
did
okay.
here was the Champlain Canal and the Erie Canal broke off in different directions, but you could navigate up to this area. And then the problem was, well, now if you want to get back into the Erie Canal, you got to go all the way down to Albany. Well, it was easier just to cut through. So I guess you could call it the original flight, although that's not really what it was for, but it was more of a junction so you could get from one canal to the other.
Maybe I misspoke. I said the original flight. That was the original path out of Waterford. Was that
Correct,
where that
yeah,
spillway was?
yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. So what was the reason for the chamber? I mean, you started saying it. Was it strictly just for continuity of the festival? Is that why the chamber got involved?
Yes, because what happens is, like I said, it's hard to find people to do the work. It's hard to find volunteers. Nobody's getting any younger. we decided the chamber would add some stability. And so in 2018, we did that. We breathed a lot of life into the event. Many people came forward to sponsor, including yourself. Thank you very much, Jason. You supported us back then and continue to do so now. And so we got it kind of straightened out. We started seeing about 8,000 people coming out for the
That
weekend.
many people come out for the weekend?
Yeah, 7,000 to 8,000, and the number's gone up in recent years, except when it rains. But if the sun is out, we'll get about 8,000 people, and so that helped kind of stabilize things. Now the chamber acts sort of as a partner alongside of some really great partners, such as the Waterford Canal Towpath Society, the Village of Waterford. We get support from Momentive Performance Materials. They're an amazing partner. They not only provide financial support, but they actually provide our emergency management plan. Okay. When the New York Power Authority took over the canal system a few years ago, they're very, very much into safety and efficiency, and they want to make sure things are done right. And so we have to provide a safety plan to the state to do this. And thankfully, we have some help from our friends at Momentive. So they helped us to create that plan, and they have their EMTs on site to kind of help just in case something goes wrong. Thankfully, that hasn't happened, but we're
just
glad
in case,
they're here. Yes.
Just in case it's there.
We're in good hands.
Great.
What do you think the economic impact is on these cities that live along the canal because of its continuous use? I know every year they talk, because the canal switched from hands. The Erie Canal went from, I think, its own entity, then it became the state thruway, and now it's become the Power Authority's issue. I mean, it keeps getting bounced around almost like the stepchild nobody wants. But what is the reason for that, and what is the economic impact, and what is the future vision of the canal? I don't know if you know that.
Well, I'm certainly not in a position to speak for the state, but I'll tell you what, as somebody who's a boater and as someone who's an advocate and as someone who works for the largest chamber of commerce in the state with regard to the marine industry, we have more marine members in the Capital Region Chamber than any business organization in the state can boast. As a matter of fact, we've got more marine members than some of the local marine trades associations, which I also sit on those boards.
Okay.
It's just that we're more varied because we have everything from the Port of Albany and the Port of Queens to the tugboat companies to the bait and tackle shops, the boat dealers, the marine publications.
Fair enough.
All kinds of stuff, boat builders. So we're a little different animal. But I think we have to remember what I said earlier was, communities still benefit from the canal, even if people aren't getting there by boat. Right. If you're trailing your boat up the thruway, or you're just driving there because you're on your way to some event at the local school, well, take the canal out of some of these towns. Why would anybody have a need to go there? You know what I'm saying? They would dry up. You look at, I'm sure you guys have talked about stuff like this on other programs, industry across upstate New York and how it's drying up in a lot of cases, right? Yeah. The canal provides an option, something that you can still do. You can still put tugboats on that waterway. You can still deliver products by water, and you certainly can still do recreation by water. So that opens up opportunities that wouldn't be there if the canal wasn't there. And so that does matter. Plus, I think it also, in 2026, we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. In 2027, we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Saratoga, which made possible the United States of America.
Sure.
All of that happened here along our waterways. And, there's going to be people that want to come and see this. They want to experience what it's like. You could be up on the Champlain Canal, literally look up at the cannons from the battlefield. And remember that Burgoyne crossed that river in order to get there. There's a park up there a little further north of here, this studio, called Hudson Crossing Park. And the whole point of that park is that's where Burgoyne came across the river. Unfortunately for him, he didn't kind of work out so good. But so there's historical significance. There's the fact that you can still utilize the waterway. And there's just the fact that that's where these communities are. They're all benefiting from the fact that the waterway is here.
Wow.
Right.
Didn't realize there was that much involved in the canal. Actually, I learned something today.
Well, the other thing, too, is don't forget, rightly or wrongly, New York State is in the middle of a major change in how we put what kind of fuel we put in our vehicles, right? What we power our homes with. I know it's frustrating.
It is very frustrating.
And I can't solve that problem because a lot of this stuff is already etched into state law. But one of the opportunities it might create is that the canal is empty. You've got traffic jams on the highways. You've got shortages of trains. You've got trains backed up. It takes, 30 minutes sometimes to get across the town of Half Moon to get to the school because the train is stopped there. Well, canal's nice and open.
Yeah.
So if they can start using alternative fueled vessels to carry stuff, there is some movement on that. It's going to be a while before you have a 1,500-ton barge, fueled with alternative energy, but a 300-tonner isn't out of the question. And there's already talk of designing that kind of thing. So, rightly or wrongly, whatever they're doing, the future may open up opportunities just because of what's happening statewide.
What's happening, sure.
Yeah.
So, explain to me the series of events that would happen if I came down to the Canal Fest. What is it to do? What's going on? What can I learn?
Sure. Well, biggest thing is for families and especially families with kids, there's a lot of free stuff. Thanks to our sponsors. Of course, we know nothing is free in this world, but we have great sponsors who help make this happen. There are free boat rides. There is a free fishing clinic for the kids. They don't have to do anything. They just come down. They go on to Peebles Island. There's volunteers from the Hudson River Fishermen's Association will be there both days, and they'll have the bait and the tackle and the whole 9 yards. Every kid there will get a $10 gift certificate from the Wiggly Worm Bait Supply in Burn Hills. So there's, a nice little package there. There's things like face painting and bouncy castles and all that. There's also a bike safety rodeo, they call it. That's nice. It's by one of the working groups from the Champlain Canalway Trail, but the gentleman that does it is here in Waterford. And what's nice about that is, let's say a kid brings their bicycle and their helmet and whatever. These people will help them, make sure they know how to safely work the bicycle.
Use their bikes.
Yeah, which is nice. You have people kind of help you out. So that's all good stuff. And interestingly, we talked about alternative energy. One of the tour boats that will be taking passengers for free that weekend is the Solar Sal 24-foot fiberglass boat. And why that matters?
I think I remember that.
Yes. Well, you remember a few years ago, we took a boat called Solar Sal, named after Sal the mule, and carried a cargo across the Erie Canal just to show that we could on strictly solar energy and electric motors, right? Well, this is a production version that's all fiberglass. It's 24 feet long, self-contained. It can carry more passengers than they can take, but because it's the Canal Festival, we're going to limit it to less people on board. But still, 6-8 people at a time, you can go on a boat like that and go indefinitely. It's sun's out.
Because the motor doesn't turn very fast. It lasts
and
forever.
It's got battery power, and the sun is beating down, and it keeps it going.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool that you're going to get to do that as a tour boat.
Sure.
If most people may not even know the difference. It's a boat. But the difference is when you look at the quote unquote gas gauge, when the sun's out, you can watch it going up. I got a pretty good sized cabin cruiser. I've never seen my gas gauge go up driving it.
It's funny, from mules to coming into the 21st century.
Right? I know. For certain types of applications, that solar electric power can be really good. And for boats like that, first of all, you've got the top, it's like a sunshade almost, right? You have the solar panels on top. Then you got the people standing underneath. You got batteries down low where they add to the, stability.
Center of gravity is nice and low.
And then you've got an electric motor on the back. You're not going to win any speed records, but if you're not in a hurry, literally the range is
free.
Indefinite. It's free. And what's the worst that happens? I've never seen it happen, but let's say you run out of power, take a nap for a while. It'll charge back up and you keep going.
I'm sure actually the beautiful thing in most of these towns, they do offer free shore power anyways.
They do.
You could plug it in.
You could do that if you wanted to. Although I have to say, Professor David Borton, who's the guy who does this, he's a purist. He has never plugged any of his boats into shore power ever.
Okay. Wow.
If I owned one, I'd want air conditioning and stuff, so at night I'd be plugged in. But he doesn't do any of that. It's all the sun. And, he doesn't get stuck because, first of all, he knows that you've got a nice extra capacity. But like the last time we did it last year, I think the gauges were on 88% when they shut down for the night on Sunday, and they came back on Monday to take it home, and it was at 100 again.
Oh, really?
Wow.
It only went down 20% after using it all day.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible, actually.
Yeah, and he carried as many passengers as everybody else did, except that they had to put gas in the boat.
So, of course, everybody loves food. Mm-hmm. So what food vendors are you looking at?
We got a bunch. We got a bunch of, self-contained, the family food trucks, all the different stuff.
Everybody loves a good food truck.
Well, exactly. Plus, like Waterford Baseball and some of those, they come down every year to all the festivals and do...
the famous Kelt's fried dough.
Yeah, yes, he'll be there. So there's all that good stuff. We have Kona Ice, the Kona Ice truck. They're wonderful. If you haven't had that, that's pretty cool. They put the ice in you pour the
Shaved ice, yeah.
gook on top of it to make it whatever flavor.
Oh, that's
you want.
sugar.
Ah, it's good. Good.
Charge those kids.
If it's nice and warm, it's going to be a fun day. So a lot of good stuff like that. I think we got kettle corn coming and ice cream and all that good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if you want to get involved or you want to participate, how do we do that?
Well, for people that want to just come and enjoy it, go to waterfordcanalfestival.com. Again, that's waterfordcanalfestival.com, and you can take a look and check out the information that's on there. If you want to, and then just come on down and have a good time. We're getting close to the event, so if anybody really wants to participate, like we may still have room for vendors and stuff right up till the last minute. They should probably just contact me. Best way I tell people to find me is just go to the Capital Region Chamber website, capitalregionchamber.com. Look at the staff. They'll see my smiling face. Click on my name and my email comes up and you can just say, hey, Pete, you got any room for me at the festival?
You'll always find room, right?
I don't think we'd have any problem with that, but I don't want a 100% promise,
Sure.
but we would do our best. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Under promise, over deliver. Is that how it goes?
Something like that.
And lastly, I just how are they handling parking? Is there admission fee? How does that all work?
No admission fee. I mean, parking can be a challenge because the village, and unlike some of the other events where they do, shuttle people in, this one you're kind of on your own. Although the village can handle it, you may have to park a little ways and walk in. But you just find, first come, first serve, find a spot and walk a few blocks. Now that's good also because don't forget, up on Broad Street, we have some great merchants up there that own restaurants in town and other things like that. Port of Call Consignments is a great place to visit. If people have to park a couple blocks away, they might stop there too, which is good. It's good for the stores in Waterford to get a few customers from out of this deal. They're the ones who make our economy strong here in this village. So we want to support them
I think
too.
the stat on most of the business on Broad that there is a 30% uptick once the canal opens at foot traffic on Broad Street.
That wouldn't surprise me. And the festivals do tend to increase that a little bit more too. Yeah.
Everything that we talked about, we're going to have listed on the comments below, so you can all click in and check it out. Reach out to Pete if you guys want anything. Do you have anything you want to add as we close out here?
Just, thanks for this opportunity. I'm really excited to support our community here. Waterford is a special place. There's history all around us. You got the history of the canal, history of the American Revolution on Peebles Island. People forget that little detail. You should do a podcast on that sometime if you haven't done it yet. The significance of...
Maybe you can get the people in touch with us.
Be happy to do it. You got the American Revolution right there. You got the Industrial Revolution right there. And you got the canal itself. Plus, it's just a lot of fun. So
Sure.
come have a good time.
Great.
You got anything that you had questions on?
No, actually, the only thing I was thinking is I know in Waterford we have the Canal Fest. Now, does this go up the canal as we open here? Is there
good
next
question.
weekend going to be a
well-
Canal Fest further up?
Not on that much of a timetable, but there are various events during the course of the year.
Okay.
We talked about places like Fairport and Lockport and those kind of communities. They do a lot of stuff like that. Good place to go for that is the New York State Canal System website.
Okay.
If you go on that, you will see a lot of details on where the events are throughout the year. And as you know, even here in Waterford, I mean, there's the 4th of July event, there's the Dragon Boat event in August, and then there's the Tugboat Roundup, which is always the weekend after Labor Day. And that's that's even bigger than the Canal Fest in terms of total number of people that come.
And they have an amazing fireworks display.
They do.
Yeah.
That's-
I have to say, Waterford, for a sleepy town, a quiet community, they have probably one of the best
one of the best,
fireworks
yeah.
displays.
They do. They
Thanks
put
to
on
great
some-
sponsors, too.
Yep, they do have some amazing fireworks in town. We're not having them for the Canal Festival, so I'm just, setting expectations. That's not we don't do that for that event, but for the July 4th and for the tugboat, it's amazing.
Well, Pete,
great.
thank you for coming and joining us tonight. And we're looking forward to a great event. Hopefully the weather holds out and we have a good time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. See you again.